Hi, I'm Steve Baker. We're at Hart Hill water tower today in Luton, and I'll be looking at water towers from now on.
Thanks, Steve. Another in our History of Affinity Water podcast series, and as you say, looking at water towers. Who have we here?
My name's Ash Bryan. I'll be showing you around the Hart Lane water tower today. As we go up the steps, it's a really tight, really narrow, steep stairway, so if we can keep our hands on the handrail all the times, please. And
how many steps?
I haven't counted. We can count on the way up.
And Steve, what's in front of us? Just explain to our listeners.
To my mind, it looks Gothic. It's made of what was called Luton brick, which I believe was cast in Stuartby, so not far from here, also in Bedfordshire, but it's a very grey brick. It's what they call Luton brick, and there were other towns with their own different colours, but this is typically Luton built, and I would say everything was made in Luton.
And a lovely arched doorway. And what does it say above the doorway?
It says Hart Lane Water Tower, erected AD 1900, and that ties in with the information I have about it. And it's got even some little flowers in the corner. I mean, the more you look, the more you see.
Before we go inside, just walk round it. Lovely spring weather, and we've got to be careful where we put our feet. But how tall would you think it is?
Oh, I would say it's at least 160 feet. I would say, just guessing, something like that.
Lots of steps for us to climb up in a minute. So, Steve, I think I'm right in saying that Affinity Water has 60 water towers in its ownership, 51 water towers which are in service today, and of the in-service structures, the total volume of water stored is 37,748 cubic metres. The oldest supply is Hart Lane water tower, where we're standing, as we said, 120 years old, and the most recent is Church Langley water tower, constructed in 1994. So that's a baby at just 27 years old, but that's a few stats for you. And why were water towers important for water companies? This is over 120 years ago they built this one.
This one in particular was built following a drought. So it was to ensure that the residents of Stopsley in particular, which was a village then really, but now part of Luton, could be kept well supplied.
And while we may be conscious of saving water, save our streams, the successful Affinity Water campaign, we know that we need to store water, and therefore when there's a need, for instance in drought, as you say, or high usage, the water from these towers can be pumped into the systems.
That's absolutely right. I mean, it's amazing to think when you look at this tower that it's still over 100 years ago, 120 years ago now in fact, applying the local district, and anybody turning on their taps right now as we speak wouldn't think twice where it was coming from, but this very tower has been providing service all that time.
Well, we hope that our customers do, as a result of our Save Water, Save Our Streams, think very carefully about their water use. We know that we last summer, through our Save Our Streams campaign, saved over a billion litres of water in July and August 2021, and I think 85% of our customers say they're taking some kind of water saving action as a result of that Save Water, Save Our Streams campaign. But in times of need, these water towers have water ready to go into the systems.
Yes, they do, and long may it continue. And it's really encouraging to hear that such a large percentage are taking positive action in saving water.
Wow, look above that window there, like turrets of a castle, but flowers again, do you think we're looking up at?
Yes, there's flowers. Essentially, Luton is a country town, a large town, but it's a country town. So I suppose elements from the local area would be incorporated into the design. And the design meant that it's actually Grade 2 listed, which is quite something.
Really, it's Grade 2 listed.
Grade 2 listed.
And Ash, I believe you've got the keys.
I have.
Thanks for the sound effect. You said that you'd painted the windows.
Yes, quite a few years ago we spent a summer here painting all the sash windows and replacing the guttering on the roof.
And it's 4 stories.
Yes.
Bonnie, doesn't this door look like a church door?
Very much like a church door,
Arched with the hinges.
and the lovely symmetry of it. I think I'll go through and mind the steps. Gosh, And what an amazing building. The iron framework and steel above us. Just explain what we're seeing, Steve.
Well, the first thing that hits you when you come in here really is the smell. It smells workshoppy and it's full of control boxes and levers. It looks actually quite old-fashioned.
And the water tower's still in use?
Yes, apparently so, yeah.
And these were pressurised water towers, so they pump water from underground, they store it, and then they also feed into the supply systems.
They do, which is why the water towers are normally higher up than anywhere else, because it needs to get to the top level story of a building.
And they're called pressurised water towers.
Yep, that's correct.
And they're also good if there's a power failure, because they're so high up, they can still keep supplying water even though power may have failed.
Yeah, it's down to their height and the hydraulics.
Some water towers didn't feed into the supply systems, but actually were there to cater back in the early 20th century, were there to feed steam engines who needed water and even fire hydrants.
Absolutely, that was the end of the 1800s, I believe, yes.
So this is actually still in use today, and it's up to you to keep it spick and span, is it, Ash?
Yes, that's it. We come in and do maintenance checks and keep it up to standards.
And do you know how much water is stored here? Or?
We're looking at the moment, got just under 83.5% level at the moment, which is just over 4 metres.
And have you ever had problems here, or is it?
No, this one generally is generally okay. We don't get much problems with this one.
So really you've had nearly, what, over 100 years of service, 120 years, and then it's still working?
Yeah, working fine. Working great, in fact.
Right, well, I'm not looking forward to this next bit, because while Steve and I have been talking, Ash, you've opened the door, and there are some windy steps, a bit like a tower in a castle.
Yes, yeah, it is, and when we get all the way to the top, it's creaky floorboards, I'm afraid, so...
Who's going to go
I'll
first?
take the lead then. Here goes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Here we are. As we go up, you can hear me counting, and a few cobwebs. Very narrow, as you said, Ash.
Yes.
How many have you counted, Steve?
I've lost count, Polly. I was relying on you.
Oh no, I'm doing the narrative.
I seem to have come to a door, but I don't know if that's just
Well,
one floor.
I think the door would be up for Ash. I hope I'm not.
That's the first floor. You can open the door and go in.
Okay, let's have a look.
Oh look, it's just like a castle and a little window. You can look out and see people's houses and allotments. Oh wow, here we are. And gosh, wow.
And this is real bolted together pipe work, taking the water from the tank, or up to the tank. Which is it?
We're looking at this way. I think that's the inlet, that's the outlet, and that one there will be the washout.
Wow.
Right.
And we're looking down through what would you call this? This is a sort of a grill looking down at the ground floor.
So what? Sorry, what can we see above there, Ash?
That's the bottom of the tank there,
Yeah.
just above them steel girders, and still left there is the old runner, and they would have put a pulley winch system on there that went all the way to the bottom to pull things up and down.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is fascinating. And then the sunlight's beaming in. It's
Yeah,
really nice.
It is really nice.
Windows. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's octagonal, isn't it?
It really is. It's an amazing place, and as I say, to think it was built over 100 years ago, still operational, still helping to supply high quality water to our 3.6 million customers across the Affinity Water region.
The view is amazing.
And I suppose why these old water towers, when they come up for sale, are coveted for conversion.
Yes. We're going to go to a converted one sometime today, I hope.
This is nice, and thank you, Ash, for showing us round. Just explain the pipes again.
So we've got the one coming down this side, that'll be the inlet, the one going out that side will be the outlet, and the third one in the corner down there by itself, that'll be the washout.
Wow, really nice to see it, isn't it? Let's go outside and enjoy some of this spring sunshine and see where we might go to next, Steve.
Okay, let's go.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, Bonnie.
Where are we now?
We're in Pirton, which is a few miles to the east of Luton. We're at the ugly duckling by comparison, water tower.
So you're comparing the Pirton steel water tower to the magnificent Victorian Gothic Hart Hill brick water tower.
That's right. This one here, by comparison, is really a no-frills one. It just doesn't conceal anything. There's the tank made of metal. There's the ladder, metal of course. There's the 4 metal steel posts holding up, and there's the intake and extract pipework. So
And it's still operational today.
it is operational today, and I think the reason why it's just so basic in appearance is probably the difference between wealthy company directors that would have been involved in Luton Water Company as it was then, and the Pirton one.
And of course, you're hitting on a history here. Affinity Water supplies water to 3.6 million customers in a horseshoe area, really. 3 different regions from North London through Hertfordshire, through Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire, right down to Frinton and on the coast. So we're one big water company now, but that wasn't always the case.
No, there are many, many different private water companies. More recently was Lee Valley, Colne Valley, Rickmansworth and Uxbridge Valley. Then you had North Surrey, Folkestone and District, and so on. And there were many, many smaller ones. I'm not sure which one this one was covered by, but we're such a diverse and vast company. I can't probably think of another water company that supplies so many different areas. We're right on the edge of Hertfordshire Border here. Then we cover the south and eastern areas. So we've got coastal areas as well. So try and think of another company that's got so much.
And this Pirton water tower, as you say, it's steel. It looks a bit like an electricity pylon that you'd see by power stations that straddle across the country. But how tall would you say it is, and when was it built?
As far as I can tell, it was built in the 1940s, and that gives it the appearance, actually, and it probably would have been a lack of materials then, if nothing else. It's really exposed to the elements here. Being about 130 feet tall on a hill, it's going to get a good battering from all types of weather.
And why does height matter with water towers?
Height matters because the water needs to reach the top stories of the local buildings. So whereas in Luton, for example, we've just been to Hart Hill, and that's in a position where it is at the top of a hill, and that is taller than the main buildings within the town, including tower blocks.
So it can pressurise the water into the systems.
That's absolutely correct.
And there's a ladder, as you say, going up the outside of this. This would be maintained and looked after and diligently attended to should the need arise.
From a health and safety point of view, absolutely. There's another big difference between this and nearby Hart Hill. The ladder is on the exterior, so you're completely exposed to the elements. The story goes, when I passed my initiation test when I was 16 years of old, it was customary to send you up a tower, and I had to go up a water tower just like this in November.
So that's the prank that apprentices had to play.
That's right, and everybody stands at the bottom and laughs.
But where to next?
We're going to go back to Luton to see another brick-built tower, very fine building, and it's called Bailey Hill. It's been out of commission for a long, long time, but it's made into a beautiful domestic dwelling.
And that's the other thing with water towers, where they are brick and they come up for sale, they're no longer needed by the water companies. People covet them and like to turn them into houses because they have brilliant views.
They do. I mean, there's been some terrific examples. I mean, you need the price tag to go with it, though.
All right, well, let's see. We're not going to put in a bid for this one, but we are going to see what's been done to it. Thanks, Steve. Let's get going.
Thank you. Off we go.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, Bonnie.
This is our third and last water tower in our podcast series, The History of Affinity Water, and we're looking at water towers.
I should say we are looking at a water tower, but we're also looking at a private residence, because this tower at Bailey Hill in Luton, the other side of town from Hart Hill, was decommissioned and is now a stunning domestic residence.
It's called Bailey Hill.
It's called Bailey Hill, but the property is now called Waterhouse Gardens.
Let's just step along and see what we can see of it. It looks like another early Victorian brick structure, not unlike Hart Hill, with some nice cornicing on it.
Yeah, it's got a lovely arched doorway, again similar to a church, but then the vast bulk of it, of the tower, is plain brick until you get right to the very top and you have the most amazing balcony, Rapunzel sort of balcony, if you like.
It is a Rapunzel balcony, and it's squarer than Hart Hill, but still, as you say, with that lovely Gothic door. And then it's called, it's got the Lee Valley Water Company sign, Bailey Hill Water Tower. So they've kept something of our heritage.
Yes, quite possibly with its Grade 2 listing that probably had to stay anyway. It's a very nice back to when it was in supply for us.
And that is Grade 2 listed as well as Hart Hill.
Yes, it is. It was listed, I believe, in 1952.
And that must just be an aeroplane going over from Luton Airport, coming in close there. But if you look up, come on, you're very good on heights. How tall is this one? This looks like a whopper, Steve.
I think this has probably got the edge on Hart Hill, so I'm going to go for 180 feet.
And it must have stored an awful lot of water that supplied Luton and the surrounding area.
Yeah, this is almost literally the other side of town. So you've got Hart Hill on the one side and this Bailey Hill on the other. And then Luton town itself is in a valley, so you've easily got a great height over the whole town.
And so if you bought this as a residence, as someone has, and converted it, you'd have amazing views over Luton.
We can only imagine, sadly, unless we know the resident, we can't go in there.
But we're not going to climb the steps as we did at Hart Hill. But clearly a difference in the supply area, because we were in the rural area of Pirton, and that steel water tower that, as I said, looked like a giant crane in some respects, that supplied many fewer households.
Yeah, it was the village and surrounding areas, immediately surrounding areas. I mean, this has got to supply, or had to supply, the equivalent of a wannabe city, really.
And that's several million people. One of the areas we haven't focused on is how proud people were, if you go back, say, over 100 years ago, of their local water supplies, whether it was the building of a new reservoir, whether it was the building of a water tower to distribute water, but it was something of local pride.
Well, you could look at water unlike any other utility. It is the key to life. And if you can capture that and you can keep it clean and potable and store it and transport it, then that is something to be proud of.
But these facilities were often opened by mayors in their regalia, wearing their chains. It was a landmark for the local community that they'd achieved these things, that had achieved a water tower to distribute water.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at this one. You wouldn't want anything less than a mayor or a local dignitary to open it, would you? Something like this is never going to be achieved again. It's not cost effective, so you're never going to see the like of it again. So why not preserve it? I mean, just look up there on each corner. The sun's in my eyes, but there's actually some huge gargoyles holding the roof on.
They are, and it's aspirational.
Yeah, it really is. What a place to come to on our final visit today.
It is, and another plane going over from Luton Airport. I believe in your pocket, Steve, you have some keys, and those keys were given you on your first day at work at Affinity Water.
This one, this odd-shaped one here, it's a very high-level key. The first thing they gave me when I walked through the doors at 16 years of age was this high-level key, and it was put on that bunch, and it's been in my pocket every single day for the last 43 years.
Well, thank you for taking us on this tour of water towers, and I feel remarkably lucky. We, as a company, Affinity Water supplies 3.6 million people across the southeast of England. And as you've said, area that goes from North London right down to Folkestone and the sea, cutting through Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire on its way. But do you think we value this heritage enough? Do we understand and value water?
I think we do, so long as it works. We don't particularly take any notice of it, but the minute something fails or isn't there, then people will lament it.
And of course we've got global warming. People have warned of scarce water resources in the southeast. And there's a southeast water resources plan involving 6 water companies across the southeast. But we know that we've got to use water more sparingly in the future. Our Save Our Streams campaign has had a remarkable take-up rate. I think with 85% of customers who've heard about it taking an action to save water, we have saved over 1 billion litres of water through July and August 2021 with the messaging, powerful messaging about saving water and saving our streams.
Absolutely. And I think we should congratulate ourselves as a company for promoting that idea.
Steve Baker, thank you very much indeed for helping us put together this tour of water towers for the Affinity Water podcast series. I've very much enjoyed listening to you.
Thanks very much, Bonnie, and see you next time. Steve Baker signing off.